I watched your video on is the U.S. becoming an authoritarian country, and I thought the most interesting part of that video was when you're talking about path dependence and critical events. So my question would be like, if we were set on a path towards authoritarianism, would that be like, would Trump's election be the critical event? Would J6 be the critical event? What do you think was like the tipping point to send us going in that direction? And do you think
So,
another
yeah,
thing could send us in a different direction?
I think that um, in this, that's one of the things about the people who study path dependence a lot is that of course it's history and hindsight's 2020,
Right.
you know, and so I think the general argument is that an accumulation of things happen along the way that leads to something which tips things in a totally different direction. And so I would say that there's a whole range of things, January 6th being one of them, Trump's initial election being another, the failure to impeach him either when he was president the first time or post January 6th. These are all like little events that have led up to the fact that he got reelected. Clearly, that's a critical event because now we see this well prepared effort by a range of political operatives on the right to press forward with a number of things which, frankly, defy the popular sense of what the Constitution is. Um, Whether they defy them in truth is another thing, because the Constitution is very vague on some things and leaves a lot up to grabs. At the same time, I am not a constitutional law scholar. I know some, and it's a question, but I don't think that any of us could say that things aren't trending in a worrying way. And his erosion of the kinds of norms and values that we think of as being quintessentially American are extremely problematic. And I think that the fact that he has a Congress that is in lockstep with him, regardless of any little missteps here or feigned dismay, they voted right along and voted for the money and, big, beautiful bill all the way. And a Supreme Court, which also seems, sadly, to largely rubber stamp anything that comes before them that challenges his authority as president, which to me is one of the most, annoying things about this whole deal, because these Supreme Court justices who claim to be originalists should not therefore support the continued expansion of presidential power,
Right.
which I think is another one of those things. Along the way, we've had, ever since Reagan, we've had increases in presidential power and influence. And the founders intended for that to be checked by the legislature and in extreme need by the courts. And now we're at a point where, is that going to happen? I don't know. I would say, for your last part of your question, that how can it turn in another direction? I think that people like you and me need to shoot our mouths off like we're doing. I think that we need to support people who are out there protesting, and we need to participate in that ourselves. We need to hold our elected representatives at all levels to be accountable. We need to complain at them. We need to encourage other people to do the same. And, perhaps in a nonviolent way, through protest, perhaps strikes, things of this nature, we can press for some sort of sea change towards a more democratic form of government than we've had. That's I'm an optimist. I have hope that that will happen. Um, I just put out a video about Václav Havel, so I'm very stoked about him. Um, he's the Yngwie Malmsteen of politicians, apparently, because nobody knows who Václav Havel is except for me. But check that out. Check out
Okay.
his work and what he's did in his life. It's amazing, and it's all about fighting against, not necessarily fighting, resisting and being an authentic human being within an authoritarian regime. It's amazing. And it's
Yeah.
so applicable to us today.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll be sure to
Does
check
that
that
does
out.
that help? I know I kind of
No,
took a
that's
I took a
perfect.
turn.
That's perfect. Honestly, like that's the note I want to end it on.